Wow, thank you, Ruff, for that wonderful introduction. This is an amazing few days for the Woodies, and I want to thank the International Tennis Hall of Fame and its members for recognising the Woodies this year. In fact, it's been quite an incredible year and a half for Todd and myself. We were inducted recently into the Sports Australia Hall of Fame, and then last January, during the Australian Open, we were placed into the Australian Tennis Hall of Fame. And today, I think, blessed with the grandest accolade of all, inducted into the International Tennis Hall of Fame. My best wishes go to... Thank you. My best wishes go to Derek Hardwick's family with his inclusion this year, and of course to Brad Parks for his pioneering contribution to wheelchair tennis. Congratulations also to Davo, to Gigi, to Natasha. A job well done. My journey in the tennis world would never have occurred, obviously, without the love and support and guidance and knowledge of a few certain people. I'll start with my parents, my mother, Ray and Pat. They're here today. They've travelled from Australia to be here, and thank you very much. This always happens. Their combined personalities, the ground rules that they set for me, obviously allowed me to jump high and aspire to achieve. Dad was able to hand the reins over eventually to a guy by the name of Barry Phillips-Moore. He and his wife, they took me away initially and certainly set me up as learning how to play tennis on the clay courts in Europe. Travelled around in a group of youngsters that perhaps weren't recognised by Tennis Australia at the time, and we did it in a very cheap way, travelling around in an antiquated and leaky minibus and eating constantly at family restaurants, usually Italian restaurants, and trying to sit next to families that had kids because we knew that there'd be leftovers, so we could reach over and grab the food because we were hungry young lads and we didn't have the cash really to pay for a starter and a main meal and a dessert. So we sat next to certain families. But I learnt my trade from Barry in a Zen-like manner, and his ethics are etched deeply in my psyche today. Barry and Anne couldn't be here today. Unfortunately, Anne is going through some illness with some blindness, unfortunately, and is unable to travel, but I know that they're here with me today. Also to Ray Ruffles and to Mark Waters, Ruff and Muddy, that we called them. These two guys were the absolute rhyme and reason behind the Woodies. And as Ray pointed out, Todd was being coached by Ruff and searching for a trainer at the time. I was actually working with Muddy, trying to focus on my fitness and looking for a coach after my stint with Barry Phillips-Moore. And that's how the jigsaw began, with the loss of the first round. And yes, Ray, I should, a further special mention about the skipping over me for the Institute of Sport. We only found that out actually later on, or so I believed, and it did disappoint me, obviously, that I missed out on the AIS, but it didn't stop me from achieving. And as it turned out, it was a true blessing in disguise because it never would have allowed me the opportunity to work with Barry Phillips-Moore and begin my journey. And so it wasn't until later when we were talking about the ways that we both grew up through playing tennis. Obviously, I wasn't really in the pathway or the system in Tennis Australia. Todd was one of Australia's best juniors, and that's how I kind of found out that Ruff gave me the thumbs down at the time. But I think I made up for it in the pro ranks, Ruff, huh? And, for my partner, Todd Woodbridge, I think we did pretty well. For those of you who aren't aware, I am 5 years older than Todd. I'm the lefty, he's the righty. He was a little more fiery on the court, and I was the calm, or as Natasha said, the fire and ice. Is that what it was? It's probably apt for us as well. It didn't stop us from desiring, even though the different backgrounds, having the same work ethics and beliefs that we could be a great team. We had the luxury of some tremendous highs and a few lows, a lot of victories along the way and a few head-scratching losses. From our first tournament win in Brussels, if you remember, Todd, you were quite out of breath and really nervous as we were closing in on the finishing line, and tried to settle you down there, and even to our last tournament win in Cincinnati, where it was your words of encouragement your leadership and strength of play guided us through those tough moments. And from our first win at the Australian Open in 1992 and to our last slam win in Wimbledon 2000, I'll treasure those moments so greatly with you, and they're memories that will be in my heart forever. So thank you. Just to finish up, thank you. Yes. Just to finish up, besides my mum and dad that are here, the rest of my family have flown in from Australia. My two sisters, uncle, etc., etc. My wife, Erin, and my two daughters, Elise and Maddie, are here today. And my extended family, through my wife's side of the family, they're flown in from California. Thank you so much for attending. This makes it all the more special for me and for the rest of us. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Todd.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's amazing to be inducted into the Hall of Fame with so many other Australian greats. So, but I think one of the things, it's a sad realisation that you're now a museum piece that's going to be put out on the court every now and again in some seniors event, and all of you are going to go and say, geez, he used to volley better than that. But I'm extremely humbled that I'm here. I want to give a special thanks to Natasha, my wife. Just a few years ago, she celebrated her 21st birthday here while we were travelling around the circuit, and it's a birthday today. We're back here again. Happy birthday, Tash. And to Mark and I, we won a lot of tournaments together, but to Natasha and to Erin, they did a big job for us off the court too, keeping everything stable and happy. And in our own personal life, Natasha and I, we won 2 great titles in Zara and Bo. They're both here too. Sports people like us, by design, are very, very selfish. We tend to really only look at ourselves, and we practice hard, we train hard, we play matches. And I do a lot of corporate speaking nowadays. I talk to kids. I work in player development in Australia. And one of the things that I like to say to all of those people and kids is surround yourself with great people. Coming from Australia, when you look at our heritage, when you had the likes of Fred over here, Rod Laver, Ken Rosal, Frank Sedgman, the list goes on, and I suppose even today we've got to add Davo to that list as well. Davo? Well, you were there. They're all great people, and they were great mentors to us, and I thank them all very much because they inspired a generation, and my generation of Australian players. I want to give a special thanks, though, to those people. I've got big font here, now I'm losing it. That I surrounded myself, and the first one of those was Ray Ruffles. Ray, thank you very much for your kind words today. You've been a guiding light in my life. My mum and dad can't be here today. My dad's not well enough to be able to travel from Australia. And in my teenage years, you filled a void of a parent and a coach, and you're doing that again today. So thanks, Ruff. Mark mentioned Mark Waters, our physical trainer. He kept us injury-free and fit and able to play as many matches as we did throughout our tour. And I was very proud of that because, as Ray also mentioned, we played for about 3 or 4 years more matches than anybody on the men's circuit. So that was quite a treat for us. A special thanks to John Newcombe and Tony Roach, our Davis Cup captain and coach through the 90s. As a pair, Newcombe and Roachy are Australian icons, and they set the bar for somebody like Mark and myself to be able to get out there and achieve. When they were the Davis Cup captain and coach, they taught us everything they knew, and they allowed us to go and break some of their records. So they're not here, but a very special thank you to them for doing that. Now, a few of us are lucky enough to say that they've lived the dream of what they dream to do. I think that I'm lucky enough to do it. Back in 91, I joined forces with Mark here. He is affectionately nicknamed Pecker, like Woody Woodpecker. He's not as red as he once was. He's ageing just a touch, but I like to do that. This year they split us up at Wimbledon in the Legends event. I stayed in the 35s and Mark had to move up to the 45s. The bad news for me was that I lost in the 35s and he won the 45s. But after success in my junior ranks, as Ray also mentioned, I was looking for a partner that I could do well with. Mark had won the '89 US Open with John McEnroe. I really felt that if I could team up with him, we might be able to do well together. We did better than well. We did bloody great. Well done, Mark. It's an honour to be here. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon.
I get you. Come on out here. Hang on. Where do we put this down here? Thank you, guys.